This video exposes one of the largest homeless shelter empires in America. On April 21st, I received a message from a viewer. I live in an NGO-run shelter in New York City. I will provide you all the details and pictures. Urban Pathways, 54 West, 105th Street, New York, New York, 10025. The people that run these places are bad people. Urban Pathways has been getting filthy rich off your tax dollars. They got $35 million in government grants just last year. Now, even though they're a nonprofit, $10 million of their organization is owned by outside investors. After this investigation, they won't be able to siphon off your tax money in the shadows. They'll have to do it in broad daylight.
Well, everything you're saying is kind of like you know somebody that was in there before you spoke to me, and You're correct.
My source and the other residents of the shelter asked to keep their identities hidden as they feared that Urban Pathways would go after them. So my source, who we'll call Jake, began to tell me about all the fraud and abuse that he's seen in the shelter. What you're about to hear is just the beginning. It only scratches the surface of the corruption you will witness in this video.
So this place that I'm at, Urban Pathways, in the bathrooms, I think I sent this to you, they have signs next to the soap dispensers says, wash your hands, prevent the spread of hepatitis. And then it's just, every single soap dispenser has been empty.
How long has it been empty for?
The entire time, like 9 months.
So you've told them that there's no soap?
Yes. Mr. It is not our responsibility to provide soap for you to wash your hands. We don't do that.
They say it's not their responsibility. Then why do they list health and wellness as part of what they offer on their website? Look at the state of these bathrooms. This is a picture of one of the showers. I'd ask Urban Pathways, is this the clean environment that you promise? Urban Pathways says that they teach personal hygiene to their residents, but no amount of tax-funded hygiene training is going to put soap in the dispensers. They've already pulled in $35 million from your tax dollars just last year alone in government grants, and yet this is the condition of their shelters. Is $35 million not enough? Is the CEO, Frederick Schack, being paid $286,000 a year not enough? Robert McPhillips, the CFO, makes $218,000. Together, those two have a higher tax-funded salary than the President of the United States. Mark Hurwitz, the COO, and Lisa Lombardi, the director, also make nearly $200,000 each. Where are those salaries really coming from? Well, the CDC spent $1.3 billion toward organizations like Urban Pathways to prevent the spread of hepatitis. Now, seeing as how that's what the showers look like and there being no soap in the dispensers, it would seem like preventing the spread of hepatitis is not the only place that $1.3 billion is going. And it gets much worse.
The entire building is basically roach infested, like from top to bottom. Like I had to buy my own roach poison to like kill the fucking roaches on my floor.
What about the conditions in this shelter? Are there roaches in there?
Yes, it is.
There's roaches?
Yes, it is. It's roach infested.
It's roach infested.
Roach infested.
Okay, so do they tell you that they're going to fix that?
No, that's not. And if you ask for it, they'll start investigating you. If you look like you're a person that knows somebody or some bigger people outside there, they kick you out.
Okay. And you know who operates this shelter? What company?
Urban Pathways.
Urban Pathways, okay. Go ahead.
I have a question. There was a guy, the maintenance guy was coming in. Isn't he in charge of getting these cockroaches out?
That's the dude you saw walk
with
past.
the keys,
Yeah.
with the keys.
Yeah.
That dude that walked past.
All I know is chemicals,
Okay.
cleaning supplies.
He doesn't do nothing.
So are things molding in there?
Everything is. You know that, bro. Everything you're saying is kind of like you know somebody that was in there before you spoke to me. And you're correct. It is. It's roaches. It's infested. It's roach infested.
This is not just perceived corruption. This is breaking the law. Title 18 of the New York Codes, Rules, and Regulations states that all areas of a shelter facility shall be free of vermin, rodents, and trash. Yet residents say it's been roach infested, and these are pictures given to me from shelter residents showing that there's roaches. There's also clearly trash in common areas, like here under the sink. It's really quite disgusting how if you were to donate money to Urban Pathways, they say it will be directly helping individuals with homelessness. Yet as you just heard, the shelter they're living in is roach infested. Now, all while residents are living under those conditions, Urban Pathways just hosted their annual gala across town where some people paid $50,000 for a plate to listen to Sonny Hostin from The View. So instead of clearing the shelter of the mold and roaches, it went to the pocket of a host from The View. Now, Sonny has said things like this: "I've been putting away money since my kids were born to pay for their college education. I just lost 20% of that, and I have kids in college. These are hitting everyday Americans." Sonny, you are worth $6 million. You are not an everyday American. You are, however, collecting tax-funded checks to speak at a gala that's celebrating their outstanding work with homelessness as the homeless population continues to grow exponentially. So with Urban Pathways getting 80% of their $46 million in revenue from government grants, it's safe to say that gala was heavily paid for by you. Now just think about this one more time. $50 million was spent on operating expenses in just 1 year at Urban Pathways, and yet this shelter they own is roach infested. That is some of the worst corruption I've ever seen. $50 million, and they couldn't find the money to get rid of the mold and roaches in their shelter. Now, while they continue to drink their champagne, the shelter residents tell me another way our tax money is blatantly being robbed. Anything with personal hygiene? Any issues?
With me?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
They supply everything?
Oh, no.
Oh.
I bring all my supplies.
Okay, where do you get your supplies?
Well, I buy them.
You buy them. They promise you hygiene, personal hygiene, though.
Yeah, but they don't put supplies.
Oh, they don't give it to you. This is mind-blowing. Again, under the same Title 18, Section 491, it states that shelters must provide hygiene supplies, yet their residents are buying their own. Why is it that American citizens are buying their own hygiene supplies in the shelters, but illegal immigrants are getting all basic items that 4-star hotels normally provide? Hear it for yourself.
Medicaid, uno tiene Medicaid y por ejemplo la comida que le dan también, cosas de útiles personales, lo básico, lo de siempre, lo que siempre el hotel te da.
You're even paying for migrants to get things you could never even imagine, like this.
Sí, la comida, dan sus pañales, sus cosas, pues, leche, todo.
So while you are paying for childcare for millions of migrants, what if I told you that migrants are also living in tax-funded homeless shelters? Not migrant shelters, homeless shelters. Take a listen.
So I'm there, and it's basically a room on the second floor, and it's like maybe 5 or 10 dudes. Half of them are like migrants, and they've got like Slim Jims, like lip balm, like basically anything you find in like a convenience store, and they're just selling shit that they like. They're just like, yeah, we stole this shit from the mall. Yeah, I went into 7-Eleven and just grabbed the shit, like the whole thing. Like they're just selling it like, oh, this was $4, we'll sell it to you for $2. And they're just like counting money out, and they're like, it was basically just like this room in the corner that people were just like, yeah, you want to buy iPad or earbuds? Yeah, and he's like, yeah, me and my homeboy went to the Target in the mall, and we just like stole a bunch of them. The one guy has like, he's like, you want to buy meth? And he's got like a bag of meth that has like crystals, you know what I mean? Like giant crystals. I'm like, no, I don't want to buy any meth.
So migrant gangs set up shop inside tax-funded homeless shelters selling stolen goods. That brings a whole new perspective to headlines like this. Target says it will close 9 stores in major cities across 4 states because of theft and organized crime. Now, it isn't just theft that is being carefully organized in these shelters. It's pure violence.
I think it was an African guy, and I want to say Guatemalan. They're fighting, I think it was over drugs, and they're in the hallway, and like, I think the one guy slammed the other guy's head into like a door, and he's like got blood pouring down his head. And then like the cops show up and they drag them out.
This took place at Cooper Avenue Rapid Rehousing, operated by another nonprofit named WestHab. Jake, being just a college student that fell on hard times, had to leave that shelter because of all the crime. That shelter alone got 2,251 911 calls. WestHab got $60 million to operate that shelter. WestHab's vice president is Valerie Smith, who just so happens to be the sister of New York City Homeless Services Administrator Jocelyn Carter. And WestHab has gotten 28 contracts and renewals totaling more than $2.5 billion since Smith joined Westhab in 2017. Now, I went to that shelter operated by Westhab, and what I witnessed was so egregious that I decided to make an entirely different episode dedicated to exposing them.
When I find out your name,
What are you going to do if you find out my name? I can give it to you if you want. So today is Urban Pathways Day, but Westhab, you have the honor of having your very own episode, so be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on. Now, before we talk about the migrant situation inside the Urban Pathways shelter, I want to talk about public housing, which is also a sector that Urban Pathways is heavily involved in. They don't just run shelters, but they control a lot of the public housing in New York City. They have outside investors that put in $10 million just in 2024 to get a stake in the profits of the public housing that Urban Pathways owns. When private money goes in, they expect a return, but that return is just more of our tax money. President Trump sees many of these public housing contracts as an issue, which is why he's suspending $1 billion from public housing programs. Now, I wouldn't have known about this particular story if it wasn't for the fact that I use Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that shows you stories from over 50,000 sources that you might have otherwise not seen in your regular news sources by showing you how the left and the right are covering a story. Like for this funding halt by the president, there are over 60 sources covering the story. The left emphasizes that the halting of the program threatens livable units for low-income Americans, framing it as a crucial policy failure, while the right highlights the risk of project failures. Knowing what each side is saying helps me get the full picture before I hit the streets. That's why I really like their blind spot feed, where I can see what's being under or over-reported by both sides. Now picture this. If you're going to a social function where you expect there's going to be some different political opinions and you expect there to be a debate, Ground News is by far the best way to prepare you for a very civil political debate. You'll impress some people and maybe even change their mind because Ground News shows you what the other side is saying. So to subscribe, go to ground.news/Friedman, and the link in the pinned comments, you can just click that or scan the QR code to get 40% off the Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access, which is the same plan that I use. Now, even just clicking that link in the pinned comments is one of the best ways to support the channel. And now, back to the shelter. Now, I asked residents at Urban Pathways about migrants living there, and it's really quite shocking what's truly going on.
Would you say
If
that
you're a migrant or you're somebody else, they want you to come. If you're somebody that comes with everything, you got knowledge and family, it's like they don't really want you here.
I got you.
But they can't kick you out unless you do something crazy.
So they want migrants in there because they won't say anything. They won't.
They don't even know English, some of them. You can't
Good.
speak up for yourself. You can't. That's what they want. They want people that can't fight for themselves.
When you learn that migrants are getting free healthcare, you might have assumed that that was the end of it. But what if they used that government-funded healthcare to commit crimes?
Another dude who I said was from South Africa, illegal immigrant, he'd just be like stealing liquor out of the liquor store. And he's just like pouring it down his throat, getting drunk, yelling at people. And then it turned out, oh, he stole that. He would just be in the hallways of the shelter like, hey, anybody want to buy either all? He's just like openly basically getting government health care, claiming that he had pain or whatever the or depression, and he was just taking the pills and just reselling them. So he had asylum, he didn't qualify, they revoked his they took away his health insurance, and then he's just still here in the shelter.
Urban Pathways doesn't hide this. They publish in their own annual report that 49% of New York City shelter residents are asylum seekers. Just like this guy said, migrants are the perfect customer for Urban Pathways. In many cases, they are coming from harsher conditions, which means they're less inclined to complain. They're also not going to complain because of a fear of deportation. And even if they did have an issue and wanted to bring it to the attention of the staff, not knowing the language makes it significantly more difficult. So it's really a perfect situation for Urban Pathways. The cost of each of these rooms costs the taxpayer $135 a night, so long as someone is occupying the room. It would make sense that you'd want a resident who wouldn't complain about the roaches, the mold, and the crime. So how did the migrants get into the homeless shelter system?
Hey, yo, you speak English?
Why are you asking questions?
Why can't?
Well, in this case, Urban Pathways abuses the safe haven shelter system. Safe havens are different from standard homeless shelters. They do not mandate sobriety and they have no curfews. So listen to this.
So the ones that they have here, I think, are like the overflow of like, hey,
They couldn't put them in migrant shelters.
yeah, like, hey, this dude didn't, he jumped the border and avoided everything, and then like wound up in New York City, and then he's sleeping on the train, and then the outreach people are like, we'll send you to this place, so then he gets to go to one of these places. Or if you go down to the end of the train line, they'll put you in a safe haven. Yeah. But they'll take them. They don't give a f. They're just, yo, it's more money.
You want to know what's really crazy? Urban Pathways assets when the migrant crisis hit went from 35.8 million to 55.9 million. They got rich from the migrant shelter system overflowing, so not only do we move migrants into 4-star hotels, we also put them in shelters that were designed to help American citizens. And you are continuing to fund it. Not only that, but I found that Urban Pathways is $46 million in long-term debt. Remember, that's after they just got $35 million in government grants in just 1 year. And I also found that they raised their salaries from $18 to $21 million a year. So instead of clearing their shelters of roaches and mold, they gave themselves a massive payday. The term nonprofit is a Trojan horse, and you're about to see again exactly how your money is going into the pockets of nonprofit executives.
So what they do is, we want you to meet your case manager every week. Okay, so I meet my case manager every week. It's 2 minutes, sit down. Hey George, can I get some soap? Can you help? Oh no, we don't do that. Is there anything else that you need? You want to bring to our attention? And the meetings have never been longer than like 2 minutes, but they bill the city for those meetings, like a huge amount of money. I'm almost positive it's several $100s to like $1,000 per, like, we're helping this person. Here, he signed his name. He agrees. And it's just bullshit. It's just total bullshit. I think they have 3 or 4 like case managers. Then they have a woman named Darlene Reddish, who I think she's like the case manager, and then they have Larry Harris, who is the program director. So it's like 3 case managers who do nothing, then they're managed by Darlene, who does nothing, and then Larry oversees everybody, Like, essentially, for them to get the money from the Department of Homeless Services, or the city's like DHS, Department of Homeless Services, for them to get the money every month for their contract, they have to show, we have met this person once a week, here they signed, or they don't want to meet us and it's their fault. See, we're going to put, they refuse to participate because they're a drug addict, or whatever, or they're violent, but they need to make an excuse. They either need to get the person to sign, or they need to make up an excuse that it's not their fault, it's this person. I want to say, I'm not 100% certain, but they do hire handymen to like come in and do work, and I'm pretty sure those people are like relatives. Like they're Larry's cousin or some bull.
Are you able to meet with a case manager once a week?
I'm about to do right now.
So you're meeting with the case manager.
Yeah.
How long is the meeting?
Not that long.
Not that long.
Probably like 5 to 10.
Do they give you up to an hour though?
No, like 5 to 10 minutes.
5 minutes, but they say an hour.
Yeah.
And you only get 5 minutes. Okay, interesting. And do you meet with them once a week? Truly every once a week?
Yeah, sometimes once, twice. Sometimes they're not even here.
Sometimes they're not here.
No, I was close to my caseworker. He wasn't even there.
Oh wait, hold on a second. You just went to see your caseworker and he wasn't there?
Yeah, he don't even come into it.
But they promised you to meet with them, right?
Yeah, I was supposed to meet with him.
And what were you going to talk about today?
I was supposed to be signing documents and updating some documents for my lease I just got.
You got a lease?
Yeah, I just got my lease.
Which program do you have a lease with?
HRA.
HRA? Yeah. Okay, do they promise to help you with employment here? To find employment opportunities?
No, not really. So
picture this. That $50 million that you see going to program services and supporting services isn't really going there. Part of the reason our homeless population increases is because clearly they are not getting the active support that these nonprofits claim they're getting. Like employment assistance, I asked the residents about it and they just say that they don't help with it. Yet that's listed as one of the things that Urban Pathways provides. They even go as far as to say that each participant undergoes a thorough assessment to identify their skills, strengths, interests, and barriers to employment. This information guides the development of a customized employment plan aligned with their goals and aspirations. Admittedly, it's pretty nice language, but it's hard to do all that if the case manager just isn't there. Now remember that fraud from nonprofits comes from the company charging the city for services they don't provide. In the Urban Pathways audit, it shows $10 million being bought up by outside investors. Now, that's not about shelters, but about public housing, which is a huge industry in New York City and a very controversial one at that. While Urban Pathways doesn't have the money to buy up tons of shelters, they own 14, by the way, outside investors help foot that bill and get checks from public housing tenants. Urban Pathways houses people in their homeless shelter until they go to public housing. So Urban Pathways essentially becomes a funnel for those investors to make millions and get huge tax breaks for buying up public housing. So those are the people getting $50,000 plates at the gala. People who are essentially incentivized to make the neighborhood worse. The question is that just free market capitalism, or should outside money be really involved with public housing? Now, some of the bank loans that Urban Pathways has received are close to $10 million for just one project. They're building another huge shelter on Hugh Avenue in the Bronx with an $8.8 million loan with a 60-year operation obligation. 60 years. To think that hundreds of millions of our tax dollars has already gone to Urban Pathways for them to still go and get loans from the bank that are projects that won't be paid off until half a century later, it's a little bit ridiculous. To close out, these places should be safe and crime-free if we're paying over $35 million a year for them. Now, clearly, Urban Pathways has been lying to the American people as to where the money is really going, and I expect my investigation to be ongoing. I talked to Jake for many hours, and he did tell me how he became homeless. It's very personal, but he's allowed me to share that he was taking care of someone who had MS. When they died, he got a roommate. He paid his roommate money to pay the landlord as he was told that they had a connection. His roommate ended up pocketing Jake's rent money and they got evicted. Jake is staying in school and getting A's and B's at the New York Institute of Technology. Please drop a thank you to him in the comments for his courage to come forward and expose the corrupt shelter system in New York City. Now, because my job is to ask questions, I came to thinking that it would only be fair if you can ask me a question. So if there's a question you've had, whether it be about conversations I've had off camera or what I was thinking while working on an episode, I've opened up the Press Corps, which is my brand new membership on YouTube where I'll do weekly live streams where you can ask me anything. So if you've ever wanted to support our boots on the ground journalism further, or just wanted to see the behind the scenes and have your questions answered, then I'd really recommend joining the Press Corps. The video on your screen is an episode we did on covering who has been getting rich off the migrant crisis in Boston. It has prompted a lot of emails from you guys submitting tips of how much deeper this story goes, so there will be a follow-up, and I'll see you there.